Good evening and welcome everybody. I now call this meeting of the Central Florida Facilitators Toastmasters Club 9958 to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you have phones or other electronic devices that make noise, please put them on silent mode now and stay present. The women's, actually we have, let's see, we have no female guests, so Mr. Peel, in case you need to use the restroom,
yes,
that
sir.
last door right there, just go right at it, take a left, and an immediate left, and you'll see the restrooms.
Thank you. Okay, good.
On your right.
Yeah, left, left, right.
If you remember that left down the first hall, you're going to be good to go, I promise.
Right.
At Toastmasters, we provide a supportive and a very positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Hey, it looks like we need to amend the restrooms. Charles, will you just tell her?
Yeah, he is on it.
Yeah, if she needs it. Through this mission, each Toastmaster gains a clear understanding of the club's purpose and the organization as a whole, benefits from a shared set of values and goals. Please help me welcome our thought and pledge leader for this evening, your Sergeant at Arms, Jonathan Dunn. Since the theme tonight is personal development, I tried to find a thought that went along with that, which most of them do. So here it is. 5, 10, 50, even 100 times a day, do the next right thing, and you will live a life uncommon, a life that is rich with inner peace and happiness. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, please give a warm round of applause to the President of the Central Florida Facilitators Presidential Distinguished Club, Charles Victor Bavalier.
Thank you, Jonathan. And good evening to all. We have 2 guests tonight. 3. You're not a guest anymore. You've been here forever. But I'll let you get up if you like.
No, it's okay.
Amy, is that Sims?
Yes.
Amy Sims, could you please get up and just tell us how you found us?
Okay. My name is Amy Sims, and I found you in the Orlando Sentinel in an ad there. I work for an organization. I've always worked in an office, and lately I've been asked to give lectures in front of 100, 200 people. I really want to work on that. So I saw you in the paper, and I thought about attending.
And Mr. Dan Peel, would you please tell us how you found us?
Yes, sir. I searched the internet under Toastmasters Altamont and then Toastmasters Longwood and saw your site. I have been maybe to a dozen Toastmasters meetings over the years. Most recently, up to maybe a year ago, at the weekend Toastmasters, which meets at the Castleberry Library on Sundays at 3 p.m. But now I'm moving into, sort of like Amy's situation, moving into a position of giving talks and seminars and speeches, and I am sorely in need of some skills. So I know I'll attain them here.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to give everyone a reminder before I forget, when our guests wouldn't know this, but when guys come in here in the morning. All right, good evening. Please don't forget to sign in the lobby and also sign out. It's been called to my attention a couple different times that there are signatures, but they don't put the times out. So please, that's the only thing that they ask us to comply with, because it's a fire safety in case there's a fire. They want to know how many charred bodies they can count. That'll never happen. The other thing too that I'd like to bring up is these are for the guests and members. You can vote, even as guests, you can vote for the best speaker, best evaluator, the best table topics, and the most improved.
That may not make much sense.
I know. Right. But at least make sure, all of us, that we do fill those out and give them to the people that did the speeches and the other reports. It's very important, and that's how we learn the Toastmasters, is when we give them our feedback. To continue with our evening agenda, our Toastmaster this evening, through the first 36 years of his life, had very many traumatic things happen in his life. In all these instances, outside of the time he lit the model rocket up in his room, always was the first to blame someone or something else. Then one day, after Bible study, where he had been instructed, the Lord speaks to us through circumstance. The Holy Spirit and the good work he had an epiphany. He thought back to math class and working with the division signs. And he thought about learning the common denominator. After driving his car into a curb and popping the tires, it was in that moment he realized all along he was the common denominator and had basically been living a lie. It was in this moment that he realized it was up to him to start living what he would learn to be the fundamental principle, the dream of his life, the dream for your life, the dream for all our lives, to become the best version of ourselves. Tonight, our Toastmaster will scratch the surface on a few topics that will likely begin the process of calibrating you in this simple goal. Please help me welcome to the front of the room a man I can testify lives these lessons. Jonathan Pope Francis Dunn.
Wow, Charlie, that was a mouthful. Thank you for the great introduction that you hand-sculpted yourself. Everybody, once again, thank you for being here tonight. We're going to launch into the agenda first, but as you sit in those chairs, someone a few weeks ago said, these meetings aren't fun enough anymore, and then certainly haven't seen that person here again. Just sit there and ask yourself before this meeting starts to have yourself shown one way to leave here better, just one way. Just one way that you'd like to get better, and I'm sure you're going to find that that happens. I want to talk about the agenda here briefly for those following along at home. Surprisingly, we've had some changes. I feel it's my obligation to tell you that I did replace Charlie Bombalier as the thought leader. He gave me that position. The grammarian will no longer be Alan Lamphere. It's going to be our good friend and member Steve Block. The table topics master this evening is no longer going to be Maureen Martin. It's going to be distinguished Toastmaster Toni Giddles, who you'll also see in an evaluation role. Our first evaluator was supposed to be Cece Ward. She's had some unforeseen circumstances, so she is being replaced by this gentleman here who's very sharply dressed in the pink shirt, Tim Rickey. And then we have one last change. I believe that's it. And that is our third evaluator is no longer Mark Lockery. It's Sarah Hunt. Now we have some guests here, and I know you're wondering what some of these things mean. So before we really launch into the meeting and get cranking, we're going to hear from you. Yes, Toni?
Well, we're talking about the agenda.
Okay.
According to the agenda, Charlie is giving competent communicator speech number 2. However, I have his speaking to inform manual, and speech number 2 is already completed.
It's number
Yes.
4.
Okay, so number 4. And as
In case you were wondering why I was doing the agenda and I heard, hey, I'll get that to you in 10 minutes. And an hour later, I just had to get it done. I'm sorry.
no, I just wanted to know what I was evaluating.
Yes.
Which part?
Otherwise, my evaluation probably wouldn't have made sense.
Thank you, Toni.
Thank you.
So let's meet these functionaries tonight. Let's hear from our timer, Advanced Communicator Gold, Stephen Morgan, on what his role will be this evening.
As timer, I'm going to be helping everyone to hit their windows of opportunity. Every speaker has a target time. The speeches prepared all currently are listed as having 5 to 7 minutes as their target times. All the table topics are supposed to be 1 to 2 minutes, and all the evaluations are supposed to be 2 to 3 minutes. Put the handy dandy light. You'll see the green light come on at the minimum range. You'll see the yellow light come on halfway through your range, and the red light come on at the end of your range. You would have to wrap up within 30 seconds of the red light to qualify for the best speaker, table topics, or evaluator. You can go 30 seconds under for speeches or evaluations. Table topics have to still reach at least a minute. I'll be reporting times at the end of each section. From those who qualify, you'll get to vote for the best speaker, the best table topics, and the best evaluator. Mr. Jaye, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Stephen. And next, we're going to hear from a man who is filling in, last minute, team player, fill in for our grammarian. Let's hear from Steve Block, please.
As grammarian, I have 2 basic responsibilities. First, to provide the word of the day to my fellow Toastmasters, and guests, of course. This is to expand our vocabulary. I've chosen a word of the day, which is lofty. My new 4th-story apartment at the Lofts is almost lofty, but still higher and more elevated than my previous 2nd-story apartment. If you have an opportunity to speak, please do your best to use that word. I'll keep track of those who use the word of the day. Those who do not use the word of the day will be fined 25 cents. Guests and members who have not yet given their icebreaker speech will not be fined. I will also look for colorful imagery. A lot of people here are very creative, so I will be writing down your creative thoughts. I will also be listening for exceptional vocabulary and grammar mistakes. And I will suggest improvements, which I probably won't, but I'll suggest improvements to grammar as needed. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Stephen. Well spoken. And next, our ah counter this evening, distinguished Toastmaster, Susan Morgan.
In order to improve the quality of our speech, the counter's job is to make us aware of disruptive audible crutches such as and you know, and double clutches, which is the repetition of a word while the speaker searches for their next thought. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words such as and, so, or like, and will give a report at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Susan. Now, Susan's married to Stephen, and that leads me to the next point. They say families that Toastmaster together stay together, so we're going to hear from Emma, the supervisor of elections, their daughter.
As vote counter or supervisor of elections, as we now call it for some odd reasons, because I never knew that kind of change. I will pick up your ballots for best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and most improved speaker. I will tally the results for award presentations at the end of the meeting. I will also pick up any comments you might have written for the speakers or any meeting participant and deliver these comments to the appropriate person.
Thank you, Ms. Mosecutter. Now, an interesting note for our functionaries, and I take responsibility for this. I missed it on one of the people. At the end, we're going to hear functionary reports again. We're going to ask that you keep those functionary reports on a time basis, and that time basis being 1 minute to 2 minutes and no more than a 30-second overage. Okay, so when you're preparing your functionary report, 1 to 2.5 minutes maximum, please. Let's keep this tight. Why the topic of personal development? The great news is, when I picked it, it was an easy topic, because if you're at Toastmasters, like Mr. Peel said, you're wanting to better yourself. The year was 2008. I was 36 years old. And like Charlie said in the introduction, I had a lot of tough things happen, and I was always the first one. I never took responsibility. I mean, that's the reality of the matter. And I was under so much stress and so much pressure, foreclosed house, mountains of credit card debt, that once again I was wanting to blame on her. I truly didn't know how I was going to go on. I didn't. You can interpret that however you want. So I got a referral for a very good counselor for matters like these. And I was sitting in his office. I was actually sitting in a chair. I mean, I felt paralyzed. And he said, "Tell me about your life." And I said, "Well, how far do you want me to go back?" He goes, "As far as you want." And I was just naming off thing after thing after thing after thing. I was with this lady and she left me for another man. I was with this lady and she charged up credit cards. I had this friend and he did this. And it was, they did this, they did this, they did this. And he walked over and I asked I actually did a mass email, and that's why it's important to check your email. I asked everybody to bring a mirror. And if you brought a mirror, you can do this. If not, you're going to get the gist of it. He walked over and he stuck a mirror right in front of my face, just like that. And I tell you what, I literally wanted to throw up in that moment, and I didn't even know why yet. He goes, "Nobody did anything to you. You're the common denominator in every single thing that's happened to you. Don't you think you played a little bit of a role in it?" I was kind of, as sick as I was, I felt free in that moment, because I knew my facade could just come tumbling down and I could start figuring out who I really was. So at that point, he asked me why I actually wanted to be here on this earth. And I won't go into that, it's incredibly personal. But that gave me the power to get up off that chair and start living my life. And he asked me a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish in his life. And he talked about a lot of those people that had perceived, wronged me. And he said the words that really were a game changer. He said, "You attracted what you were." I was a person that didn't keep my word, wasn't loyal, wasn't faithful. It was every bad adjective you could ever think of. But once again, once I was able to actually steer through all that BS, I was able to actually finally start moving forward, and I'm really happy it was at some point versus when it was too late. So that's why I picked personal development. It's how I ended up at Toastmasters. It's how I've done a lot of things. And of course, we can't fix everything that's wrong with someone in a night, and I know you all know that it takes a lot of hard work. So in between segments, I'm going to just give you some little blurbs that gave me some instant gratification, as bad as we need to think long term, that kept me going along. So I want you to just ponder that as we move forward. And thank you for your patience. Now it's time to get into the beef of the meeting, our prepared speeches. And they're going to be unbelievable tonight. In our first speech, Jaye is going to tell us a story about childhood dreams and reality today. It will exploit humorous antics full of very uplifting moments and leaving the listener to ponder how his or her childhood dreams fit their reality today. Please give a warm round of applause to our first speaker, Jaye Majors.
Great to be here. Great to see our guests tonight. Thank you for coming. And great to see all my fellow Toastmasters. Let's get into this. It started 50-something years ago, or maybe hundreds of years ago. That wild and crazy spirit of freedom and adventure and that fearless approach to life. I really believe it started hundreds of years ago in a past life. You see, I was once a lady pirate that sailed the dazzling emerald seas with pirate flags flying atop the lofty, sturdy ship's mast. Yes, fellow Toastmasters, it's a pirate's life for me. Anne Bonny was my rebellious alter ego and incarnate spirit. She was a crew and pirate ship captain, roughly 1700 to 1782. She hooked up with Calico Jack Rackham and was friends with Blackbeard. They sailed the seas and pillaged and plundered the southeastern coast of America and the islands of the Caribbean. As a child, I read every pirate book in the library. The books took me places around the world and on adventures that made my heart sing. The stories of the high seas adventure gave me courage, strength, and made my spirit soar. I became the story. I was unstoppable. That spirit was a real problem growing up as a little girl in a small, tiny town in the foothills of the mountains of North Georgia. Because you see, back then, in those days, women became housewives, secretaries, teachers, nurses, and baby factories. And if you know me, you know that just wouldn't work. I had all this crazy wild red hair and freckles caused by hours and hours of time outside in the sun. I hated indoors, and I hated when my mother went to cut my hair. I grabbed the scissors, and I tossed them in the garbage. And then I burned the wooden spoon that she spanked me with. I was a real devil child. My parents never understood why I could not be calm and serene like my stupid sister. I fooled them. They nicknamed me Sweetie Girl. I guess they hoped that by giving me that moniker, it would make it so. No chance. Well, I did make it through childhood and adolescence, and somehow that pirate spirit never left me and never failed me, even though they tried to beat it out of me. After college, I packed my belongings, and I left that little town and headed for South Florida in search of my career and adventures on the sea. I couldn't be Anne Bonny. I couldn't even be Jacques Cousteau. But I did find my career, and I did find my ocean adventures. I learned to scuba dive when I was in college, and as soon as I arrived in Miami, I took courses. Dive master, wreck diver, cave diver, deep diver, rescue diver, eventually dive instructor. By day, I played around and counted and calculated financial numbers 5 or 6 days a week. But on the weekends, holidays, vacations, I became Jaye Cousteau. I was on a dive boat and under the water hauling in lobsters, conch, snapper, grouper, shark, and anything else, and saved a few human lives along the way. I spent every moment on or in the water. I could navigate the deck of a boat and the direction to the next reef, harbor, or beach better than navigating that darn concrete jungle. Dolphins, rays, eels, barracuda, and shark became my friends and co-conspirators. In summer, we sailed out from Key Biscayne around Cape Florida Lighthouse, dropping anchor to hop in the water and snag a few lobsters and conchs. We headed on over to Fowey Light. It sits between Stiltsville houses, reefs, and the flats of Elliott Key in 25 or 30 feet of water. With quick and stealthy work, we stole more treasures from the fishermen's lobster traps. They were hidden below. We dodged barracuda, shark, and even challenged them to swim along with us. We found small octopus and tossed them around on the butts of our 12-inch dive knives. I even rode a stingray up over the top of a 60-foot reef and swam and played with a giant sea turtle. It was a grand adventure. When the winds of cooler weather began to blow, we suited up in wetsuits and tightened up the sails, hooked up the gear, and raced with the wind across Biscayne Bay, right down to Key Largo, Islamorada, Marathon, Key West, and the Tortugas. We sailed the open sea and the intracoastals. Our compass pointed the direction. The lighthouses and channel markers guided us around rocks, reefs, and shallow waters. My favorite days were when the wind howled and the sun was high in the sky. As I flew out over the water, clipped onto the hull of the boat by only a hook and wire. I had all the power of the sun, the wind, and the water in my hands. I was unstoppable. At dawn on the beach, we ate our fill of shuckers and little necks and washed them down with Bloody Mary and Bahama Mamas. Then we set our riggings, readied the sails, and pushed off. There's nothing more exhilarating and calming than a day on the sea. At the end of the day, those lobsters didn't stand a chance. We filled our bellies with tails, claws, and a jug of rum. Exhaustion, peaceful sleep, and dreams of the next adventure was the final destination. Then all too soon, it was Monday morning and back to reality. And my final thought, I'd rather be sailing and counting the waves and the rays of the sun and the fish in the sea than counting and calculating pages of financial data. So you see, fellow Toastmasters, it is truly a pirate's life for me.
Mr. Timer, may we have 1 minute on the clock? We take 1 minute now. This is for the guests. The first speaker there was Jaye. Jaye would like to hear your comments about her speech and what you thought of it and areas you might think she needs to improve. So during the minute, please write down your comments for Jaye. Our next speaker tonight enjoys talking, achieving lofty goals, and debating politics. He also enjoys being with other Toastmasters, and he considers the facilitators his sanctuary from this crazy world he encounters every day. Please give a warm round of applause to our second speaker, Charles Bavalier.
It was just last night at the Democratic debate that once again it was brought up an interesting point that most people fail to recognize. And that is that they keep mentioning there are 11 million illegal immigrants in our country. Gee, I've heard that for the last 12 years. And it strikes me funny that the government admits that over 1 million illegal immigrants pour through our gates every year. But it stays the same, 11 million people. If truth be told, many people actually think there is approximately 30 million and counting illegal immigrants in this country. Thank God most of them are in California.
You haven't been to Miami. You haven't been to Miami.
59% of illegals in our country are Mexicans, and the rest are from Central America. As I said, most do reside in California, but of course now they're all spreading everywhere in every state. Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Illegal immigrants have brought with them criminals, rapists, drug dealers, and gang members. In addition, we have allowed new diseases to spread unchecked into our country. Meanwhile, the law-abiding people that would like to get into this country legally are put through absolute hell. My friend Ruben, that I've known for 23 years, has been struggling with immigration for the last 12 years, has spent over $45,000 to become legal, and he is a college graduate. He's a tremendous, one of the top low voltage technicians that I've ever met, and yet he can't get in yet. He's still waiting for the backup. They talk over and over and over again, including last night's debate, about comprehensive immigration. And you know what? I agree with them. You want to have comprehensive immigration? Give every country, including Mexico, 5% immigration. Spread it around. Because in these countries, you're also going to get, not only are you going to get, like Mexico, 95%, and I'm not criticizing them, just the way it is. They're peasants, they're ill-educated. These other countries are wanting to bring in professionals, doctors, nurses, artists, speakers, all kinds of professionals that are trying to get in here, like we used to have, and actually will bring up our economy. What we have in Mexico and Central America, the dead poorest people, is they're looking for blue-collar jobs, and if they can't find them, they go into drugs and other criminal activities. And that's verifiable. Apparently, Barack Hussein Obama believes that this kind of behavior should be rewarded with a path to citizenship. The vast majority of illegal immigrants pay absolutely no federal or state income taxes, and they never intend to. Our economy is struggling. We need to wake up. There's over 44 million Americans are on food stamps. 47 million are living in poverty. And there's 95 million that are actually out of work. You would think to halt illegal immigration will make common sense. But instead, Barack Obama wants to grant amnesty to all the illegal immigrants that are already here and put them to the path of citizenship. Obama is against border fence. He says we don't need it. Meanwhile, thousands more illegal immigrants pour into this country as we speak right now. Every day there's thousands and thousands coming in. Let me give you a quick example of the comprehensive immigration law that he wants to pass. He thinks that everybody can become a citizen. They're excited about becoming a citizen of the United States if they follow the following rules. Admit they broke the law. Right. Pay back taxes and a fine. Sure. Learn English. Absolutely. Be willing to undergo background checks before starting the legalization process. These 4 points are taken directly from the Obama plan. So what are illegal immigrants going to do when this plan is passed? 99% of them are going to laugh and are just going to keep doing what they are doing. My friends, I'm telling you right now, it's nothing against the Mexicans or Central American people. It is time to stop the border. It is time to get our economy in progress. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Charlie. Mr. Timer, may we have 1 minute on the clock? Everybody, Charlie would love to hear your comments on his speech. Even if they are contrarian.
Maybe other.
Oh.
What time shall we do?
Thank you, Mr. Timer. Before we go into our third and final speech, I want to share with you a thought that the counselor gave me on that first day that has stood with me for the better part of 7 years. And he told me that people are put on the earth to love. People are put on the earth to love. And things are created to be used. But more often than not, in this country, we love things, and as painful as it was for me to hear that day, use people. You might think that horses have very little to do with leadership, but our next speaker learned a lot about who she was as a leader from a horse at a very young age. Please welcome our next speaker, Lynn Ayers, to share with us what her horse taught her about leadership as she gives her speech, Leadership Begins on the Ground. Please give a warm round of applause to Lynn Ayers.
Have you ever wanted something so bad when you were a kid that you would have done anything to get it? Fellow Toastmasters and guests, ever since I was old enough to walk, I had always wanted a horse. And every time I approached my parents, I was always met with an emphatic no. Finally, after many years of urging, pleading, and begging my parents to let me have a horse, they finally agreed. The moment I had been waiting for all of my life finally arrived. The trailer with my horse arrived at our farm. I couldn't believe it. I thought I must be dreaming. My horse, Gypsy, stepped out of the trailer and stepped into my heart. She was a beautiful 3-year-old bay quarter horse mare. She stood there with her head held high and looked at us with eyes like those of a doe. She was lofty. She was magnificent and majestic. She was beautiful. I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to ride her. After all, when you get a new car, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to take it for a spin. I quickly saddled Gypsy and off we trotted to the other side of the farm. Before I realized it, her trot had turned into a gallop. No matter how loud I screamed, "Whoa!" or how hard I pulled on the reins, Gypsy just seemed to run faster. My happiness was quickly disappearing like a puff of smoke. As we ran along the side of the fence line, I had to duck down low to keep it from being knocked off by a tree branch. Finally, Gypsy veered and began running in the open pasture. I was able to sit up in the saddle, and I grabbed a handful of her mane in one hand and tried to get a tighter grip on the reins with the other hand. She galloped towards a herd of cows and they scattered like chickens. And then it happened. My dream was quickly turning into a nightmare. Gypsy was galloping full speed towards a barbed wire fence. My life literally flashed before my eyes. Amazingly, I was able to remain calm. I was able to pull her head to the side and she came to a halt, snorting like a steam engine only yards away from that barbed wire fence. I wasn't angry at her and I tried to reassure her. As she calmed down, we walked back. It became obvious to me that if I was going to own a horse, especially a young horse, that both of us would need some training. Many people who think a horse bolts because it's being stubborn, when in fact it's just running out of fear and confusion. After many months of working with Gypsy, I began to earn her trust. I learned that in order for me to be the leader, I was going to have to gain her trust and respect, and that would begin on the ground. After all, let me ask you something. Would you let a person that you had just met babysit your child? No, of course not. You would get to know that person first. It's the same with a horse. You must begin with a relationship. In order to gain Gypsy's trust, I had to learn to communicate with her, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Just as body language is important in communicating with people, it's no different with a horse and a rider. A horse communicates with its entire body from its head to its tail. We've all seen videos on the internet of people being bitten or kicked by a horse. If you study that video closely, you will see that horse giving a signal. Usually, it will have its ears pinned back, flat against its head. That is a clear signal of aggression. If you're able to effectively communicate with a horse, you can predict their behavior and thus eliminate undesirable behavior. Being a herd animal, horses are natural followers, and they will relinquish leadership to a leader that is calm, confident, and focused. However, if you're not calm, they sense that you do not know what you are doing, and they will not relinquish leadership. And also, if you're not consistent, they will not relinquish leadership. One thing that I have learned over the years is that these same principles that I learned as a child can be applied to our relationships at work. Leadership doesn't always come natural to people. Some leaders are born, but most leaders are created through a series of circumstances. If you commit yourself to continued self-development as a leader, eventually you will earn the respect you desire. And once you earn the trust and the respect of the people around you, everything else will fall into place. You just have to begin at the ground level. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Mr. Timer, 1 minute on the clock, please. Please fill out for the third speaker for Lairs. Great job. Thank you, Mr. Timer. Mr. Timer, may we have a timer's report, please?
For our speakers, lofty goals of 5 to 7 minutes each. Jaye landed right at 7 minutes. Charlie went to 7:25, and Lynn went to 6:21. It is assuming you did not intend to do the question and answer session for the project. So therefore,
Thank you, Stephen. At this time, on your sheet, you will see a part for Best Speaker. Please fill in the name of the speaker that you thought was the best. And second, and disregard the most improved. That will happen later. And Emma will come around and she'll collect your comments and your votes. Before we launch into the next part of the meeting, I want to share with you another thing pertaining to personal development. I don't remember exactly who said it, and Stephen, if you know, you can jump in. You are the average of the 5 people you associate with the most.
That was my mom.
she was 5 people.
I want to invite you into a drill that you can do tonight or whatever on your own time. Go home and make a list of all the people you call friends. I can assure you, it's probably not all the people that are on your Facebook feed. And ask yourself, does this person inspire me? Is this person help me to become the best version of myself? And well, what is the best version of yourself? I like to break it down into 4 categories. The things that truly create long-lasting happiness. Pies, P, your physical side.
I didn't hear that correctly.
Pies. But that's so you can remember this.
P-I-E-F.
When you're thinking about your friends, do they encourage you to be the best physical version of yourself? Just a real quick one here. Does anybody in the room own a $1 million racehorse? If you owned a $1 million racehorse, would you be feeding it wine, McDonald's, tater tots, and pizza?
Whatever be happy race, yes.
There's always one in the room. So why would you think that physically you're less valuable than a horse? What has happened to where your esteem has become so derailed? Do your friends inspire you intellectually? Do you talk about TV shows that are absolute garbage? Or do you talk about books that inspire you, that expand the vision of yourselves, shows that expand you? Do your friends inspire you emotionally to really be who you are? Mine didn't. I take full responsibility. And do your friends encourage you to have a spiritual side? And if that's not God for you, that's okay. But spiritual should mean this. The things that you're going to do in your life that are going to create long-term happiness are what you do for other people. If your friends don't inspire you in those 4 categories, if you're not being that friend to other people, it's really truly time you have a reality check. And here's what you do. You weed your garden. If you have weeds in your garden, you get rid of them. If you have friends, sometimes the most loving gesture you can do is to get rid of them. Your friends will never encourage you to be second-rate versions of yourselves. And I know that because when I went through what I went through in 2012, that man was there by my side every day, reminding me that I truly had value. So don't hesitate to get rid of your friends. And now, on a more joyous note, table topics. Which I made an error on the agenda. I made an error on the agenda. We are going, so we do not run late. Our table topics is going to go to 10 till. It's going to go to 50. So we're going to jump into it. Since her late 20s, that would be the 70s if you were not good at math, Toni has been on a personal development journey. She has sought out books, tapes, courses, great advice from personal development leaders in the United States, and is an avid fan of Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sunday interviews. In the 80s, she trained and assisted classes with Dale Carnegie team in Orlando, was a student and a leader of the Landmark Corporation, a worldwide training and transformational development company, and has been a Toastmaster where she has mentored countless members, myself included, and been trained in leadership and communication for 11 years. A big part of her 35-year career in audiology was spent in continuing education, both taking and delivering courses on a national and international stage. According to her current reading, a book by Carolyn Mize called Archetypes. Who are you? She is the archetype called the intellectual and has many traits of the spiritual seeker. As least she confides, that explains all the money she has spent on books, tapes, courses, and training programs. I know the feeling. Well worth it too. Oh wait, no, that's her Evaluator thing. So here for table topics tonight, Toni Gittles, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Hello, my job right now is to be your master of table topics, or your table topics master. And the purpose of this section of the meeting is to practice impromptu speaking. We do have a theme, and all of the questions that I ask or the comments that I present to you will be related to personal development and being magnificent and sharing your magnificence with us. There are a lot of areas in our life where we need impromptu speaking. All areas of our life, whether it's with our spouse, at work, in a social situation, or in this club. But this is where you get the practice, where it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to not come up with an answer, and it's okay to come up with any answer you want.
Your mistakes go on YouTube.
Sorry?
Your mistakes go on YouTube.
Oh, hi. Forgot about that. And your mistakes go on YouTube. Thank you very much. Well, speaking of mistakes, let's start with that one. Thought leader Tim Storey said in a recent interview with Oprah that we shouldn't waste our mistakes. We should learn from them. We can fail forward, he calls it. It's not final because of these mistakes. Please comment on the quote. Well, Steve Block, let us hear it. Want to take it?
Okay, sorry.
You weren't listening. Okay.
We shouldn't waste our mistakes.
We can learn from our mistakes. Tim Storey calls it failing forward. And nobody should think of a mistake as the end of your life. It's not final just because you make a mistake. Move on. Your comments.
It might not be final. You can always recover from mistakes. But it's not free to make a mistake. You always have to pay for your mistakes. There is always a cost. Some mistakes have more costs than others. Some of them you can just wipe clean and start new with a clean slate. Others, they ruin you. There are certain mistakes that are forgiven, and certain mistakes that people will never forgive you for. You take a heinous crime, you get labeled. You have the scarlet letter on your body. You can never get a regular job. You can't get normal rent. I tend to believe when it comes to people doing things wrong, I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe people should learn from mistakes. I believe first-time offenders in Maryland, there was a policy, they call it probation before judgment, where a judge could throw out something for a first-time offender. However, I've seen other people just completely disregard the forgiveness that they've been given. I knew one person who was busted with a DWI. You would think, okay, he drives carefully now. No, he was arrested a month later for driving over 100 miles an hour. I know when I get a ticket, when something goes wrong, I'm careful for the next few months, the next year. I'm careful for a long time. So in terms of mistakes, none of us are perfect. However, there is a cost, and we need to do our best not to make them. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Gene Siskel, journalist and movie critic, once asked Oprah Winfrey, "What do you know for sure?" And it became one of her favorite questions, answering it every month in her magazine. The other Stephen Morgan, what do you know for sure?
Nothing. Madam Table Topics Master, how can we be sure of anything? That would assume that there is some place you can go with an objective answer for everything. Or at least that one something. And I've not yet found that objective, one level place where you can say, this is and this is not. And this is what philosophers have been debating for centuries. That is when Descartes came up with the only concept he could figure out is, I only know I exist because I'm thinking. But of course that could actually itself be an illusion, could it not? Maybe it's the fact that I'm not really thinking, I'm just imagining it. Am I not really here in that case? Did I actually die years back in a car accident and I haven't realized it yet? Or maybe you have, or you have. We don't know, we can't tell. We don't know until there is that option to cross over and go, is there something there? And we've never really been able to prove if there is. People will believe it, some need to believe it, and I understand that. But that doesn't make it objective. That doesn't make it true. That is the hope that there's something there. The idea that there can be something beyond this subjective reality we all live in. So what is that little bit of objective truth? What do I know for sure? I know nothing. I don't know if this makes sense to anyone. But if it does, then maybe you've gleaned a little bit and you won't have to make the kind of mistakes in your own thinking before you realize maybe I just don't exist here yet at all. Madam Table Topics.
This follows very closely along with something Jonathan said. Here's another quote from one of our current thought leaders. I would guarantee that some of your lost momentum has come with the people you have placed around your life, because people can suck the life out of you. Give us a current or past example of this in your life. Charlie Bombalier. This is your question and answer period, by the way. I would guarantee that some of your lost momentum has come with the people you have placed around your life, because people can suck the life out of you. Give us a current or past example.
Madam Table Topic Master. I have had the life literally sucked out of me as a child for 7 years. I didn't know if I could even, at times, survive it. But somehow I did, and I did it through other people that refused to give up on me. When I was down, they gave me a hand and pulled me up. Over and over again, and not just one person, several different people that I was blessed to have run into. So I'm very careful now, because even though that was many, many, many moons ago, it never quite leaves you. It reflects your soul for the rest of your life. But you learn how to manage those things, and you learn how to appreciate when you run into the right people that can boost you up, and in turn you learn how to boost others up. And that's what I currently do now. I try to boost people up. Madam Table Topic.
Thank you, Charlie. Who has been the most influential person in your life, and why? Miss Emma.
Oh dear. There are a lot of people like those, believe it or not, especially for me. But I think one of the most influential people would have been my third grade teacher, Mr. Boats, when I was going to school in California. He actually helped me read, because before then, I hated reading. My mom can attest to that. I did not like reading at all. I didn't like it, didn't like doing it. I actually have no idea why I didn't. And then he gave me a book. I think it was Island of Blue Dolphins or something like that. And I was like, whoa, well, I guess I can learn a lot more. And then I got a huge vocabulary out of it. It's odd because I don't get how that would have happened and why that happened, but it's just like, he's so inspirational and he taught me so many things. And I befriended actually a Hispanic girl. She had moved into our class, and only a couple people could talk to her. She started learning English slowly, but he spoke Spanish. I was able to talk to her, and then I was like, I went up and talked to her and stuff like that because I'm of Spanish descent. And, well, I can't exactly speak Spanish, but I know a little tiny bit. It's just, he inspired me so much, and I don't know where he is now, but
Oh, thank you, Emma. What's the best advice you've ever been given? Amy, would you like to participate?
Sure. Well, I've been given a lot of advice in my life, so reflecting upon what the best advice I've ever been given is, goes along with something we've heard about tonight. I have heard the saying, when you fail, fail forward, that in life, everything is either a lesson or a blessing. And I think that's a wonderful attitude to have about life. So perhaps that is one of the pieces of the best advice that I've ever received, to look at everything as either a lesson or a blessing. If you make a mistake in life, look at it as an opportunity to fail forward. Learn something from it, take that in, be open to feedback, and to move forward on that. So that's what I've learned.
Thank you. That was our last question. Stephen, can we have a timer's report?
I'm Table Topics Master. Steve Block's fail forward was for 1 minute 57 seconds. My table topic on what do you know for sure was 1 minute 52 seconds. Charlie's table topic, people who sucked the life out of him, was 1 minute 23 seconds, which qualifies. Emma's table topic on our most influential person was 1 minute 37 seconds. She qualifies. Amy gave us the lesser blessing, only went to 49 seconds, so did not qualify. Looking for the green light. So between Steve, Steven, Charlie, or Emma.
Thank you. Just to explain, we do timing, so that's part of the structure of the Toastmasters Club. You'll see everything is timed, so that has a purpose to it, but you did an outstanding job. All of our table topics speakers did a wonderful job, but as far as the voting goes, please vote for the ones that qualified. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you for filling in. Going off Amy's table topics subject, I'm going to be closing out my part up here with some of the best advice I've ever heard, and which also kind of leads into the final part. And in giving, we shall receive. Our next portion this evening is when evaluators give their feedback on how to really improve these speeches. It's really a lot of people's favorite part of the meeting because, believe it or not, it's been hardwired into your heart that in giving, you shall truly receive. But before I relinquish it, I'm a Toastmaster and I like to talk a little too much. So a little bit more best advice I've ever heard. This came to me from a lady named Anita Morjani. She had stage 4 cancer. She was lying on the hospital bed having her lungs drained. They told her husband she was going to die. She had a near-death experience and she came back. And when she had essentially her second chance, she said, "This is the most important thing I learned when I came back to truly heal." And that was to be myself fearlessly every single day. And to live your life fearlessly even when you've got some gold-plated bullshit running through those ears telling you that you're crap. And that really is gold-plated bull crap that I leave on my office wall because I'm a human. I experience it every day. Just the coping skills are far better now. Our general evaluator this evening graduated from high school in rural Ohio. He thought he was done with his education, but he quickly realized, though, that personal development is an ongoing process. It should always move forward, never stop, never stall. He joined Toastmasters just under 2 years ago and has seen tremendous improvement in many areas of his life in this relatively short amount of time. He is enhancing his mind. He is enhancing his speaking skills. He just won the area championship for humorous speaking. And he is enhancing his leadership skills. He is, with the usage of a lofty microscope, the definition of male enhancement. Please help me welcome our general evaluator this evening. Mark, I'll be happy with anything higher than 7th place. Locker.
Thank you, Jonathan, and I wish I had a bull that laid gold crap like that. As your general evaluator this evening, it is my duty to stand up here and do more than just tell you I am magnificent and act lofty. The evaluation portion of the meeting is when we get to give positive and constructive feedback to our speakers. We will have 3 evaluators this evening, and after they speak on the prepared speeches, I will give some feedback on the meeting in general. But on a quick note, I just want to say I love the diversity in this club, and the topics of the speeches are so vast. And as you sit out there and you listen to these speakers, you can relate to a lot of the things that they talk about. I was able to personally relate to every speech today. Jaye, I spent a lot of time scuba diving in the East China Sea, and you brought back a lot of memories. Lynn, we had horses when I was young, and you brought back a lot of memories there. And Charlie, I've actually been personally involved with bringing a lot of people over here via the legal immigration process from Mexico, the Philippines, and even some friends of mine from Iran that we brought over. It is quite an expensive experience, And if you don't go through it personally, you can't appreciate the passion that a lot of people have on that topic. First evaluator this evening, Timothy Michael Rickey is a coach, writer, entrepreneurs trainer, speakers coach, as well as an author of 17 books. He also has 4 inventions. His background includes being awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year and Florida Business Person of the Year. He worked for Tony Robbins and is a certified NLP. On contributing to society, Tim has left his vocal talents as an Elvis impersonator to numerous charities for 23 years and volunteers at the Winter Park Veterans Hospital weekly. Please welcome Timothy Rickey to evaluate the speech of Jaye makers.
Glad I'm as tall as I am. I see some of our speakers have a little bit of a problem here with this place. It's rather high. Jaye! Somebody left their notes up here. Jaye, I instantly thought of Goonies, one of my favorite movies, when you're talking about the pirates of the Pirate's Life for Me is the title of your speech. I noticed that you had colorful word pictures. I mean, we're getting all kinds of pictures through our mind. I call that that type of thing putting Dickens into your speeches, because Dickens, in all of his stories, is commas, commas, commas to describe something. If you ever read A Christmas Carol rather than see the movie, you'll see exactly what I mean. You know, you can see the characters come to life. That's what you did for us tonight. The story was done step by step on a nice journey, so we know where you come from, where you're going to, which is one of the questions asked about the speech. And how effective did it use the vivid description, anecdotes, and stories? And you had those touches of humor in there, and it was all story, which is always, to me, the best way to do a speech, is to provide stories so there's an analogy in there that people can relate to. You related back to the opening, it truly is a pirate's life for me. So you finished your speech, as you should, referring back to the title. That was one of the questions. A couple suggestions. Slow down. You may have had too much speech, so you had to speed it up. Okay, so you have to look where you can cut some certain things out of the speech. And when you talk about vocal variety, it isn't just how high and how low. People forget about the change in speed. You know, when you're going to make a point, the thing I want to say is, you got to get out there and do it. So you have 2 changes of speed. So keep that in mind when you do your speeches. And the other thing is, why have you got notes for a story that you lived? I mean, you live this, you don't need the notes. Because when you have the notes, you're looking at the notes, you're going to lose something with your audience. Because if you're looking at your audience, you're telling your story, you can see the reaction, you actually will figure out ways to go on your next line because you can read it in the faces of the audience. That's something you learn as an entertainer. I learned it, but that's where you learn those things from, is trying to do with the notes. So my final suggestion is, do this again, but without notes. And if you want to know how to learn it, you put it in you record it at night, and you play it all night, put it on repeat while you're fast asleep. And you will, a lot of it'll stick to it works. Great speech, I love the story. I didn't know you were that wild about this stuff, so congratulations.
Thank you, Tim. Unfortunately, I think Jonathan read the intro for Toni already. Luckily, I had a computer-generated one right here. So. She is a mentor and a leader. Our second evaluator this evening has helped many in this room by providing constructive feedback and offering suggestions on possible areas of improvement based on her extensive experience. She has more enthusiasm than a barrel full of monkeys and keeps us upbeat and enjoyable throughout the entire meeting. Please welcome Toni Gillis.
Charlie Bombalier. I know you are here because you have some serious business to do out in the world. And I am going to, with that knowledge, that is how I'm going to evaluate your project. Knowing that you want to impact people. Whether it's to bring them around to your opinion, or to teach them something about abuses going on in the world, or to just share yourself in an environment like this. great topic. Why? Because you are passionate about it. I love Charlie's passion. Sometimes he picks a topic and you don't know how he feels about it. This time. Number two, we do know how you feel about it because you put yourself in the story, whether it was through words that you used and that you chose, or words you didn't say, or your vocal variety. But those are all positive things, so I do want you to bring that out into the world when you speak in front of a group. Now, related to this particular project, you're an advanced communicator at this point. And these projects are to give you additional skills from what you studied originally during the first 10 projects. So first of all, next time you pick a project, check out the objectives, read the project. Second one in a row, you guys, what are you doing to me? But more important than that, but that goes along with that, make sure your audience knows why you're standing before them. Why are you here? Why are you an expert? Why are you talking about this subject? And what do you want to leave us with? Because this wasn't an entertaining speech, even though you had a great entertaining line about California. And it's appropriate here. I'm sure you have the common sense not to use that anywhere else. Unless you are Donald Trump talking in front of 10,000 of his very best supporters. In which case, I'm sure everything you said was a fact. However, we don't know that because you didn't cite any of your resources. If you want credibility, back it up. Now you can use some of the time in your introduction to do that. You don't have to waste time in the speech. So give us a powerful introduction, tell us why you're here, use that passion, share Charlie Bombardier with us, and you will go out there and be successful and change this world. Congratulations. Mr. Jaye.
That's your heart to beat, that speech.
Thank you, Toni. Our next evaluator this evening believes Toastmasters is the ultimate personal development opportunity. There are endless chances to improve ourselves, to offer feedback. For our next evaluator, please help me welcome Sarah Hunt.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Hello, Toastmasters, guests, and Lynn. Have you ever wanted something so bad? How to say it, that was the emphasis of this speech. And the goal was to use clear language, short sentences, easy to describe, vivid descriptions. Wow, did she do that? So many things I liked about this speech. The first, what a wonderful story. It had the perfect elements. There was this desire, this horse, and you got it, you achieved it. Then you had a big, fat disappointment. It wasn't what you thought. And then you had a lesson. Those components is a story. You told it so well. Definitely one of the highlights, just to be able to follow that, and then having a message. The language, it was used beautifully. The simplicity of describing this horse as magnificent, it was majestic, and how you described the fields, and even the way the horse moved. Like a puff of smoke, you use words like snorted like a steam engine. The snorting sound stuck with me. Very well done in how you described it. I also like the analogies. You described a car, how you do want to go out there, take it for a spin. You get your achievement, you got this horse, you want to go ride it. You use the babysitter. You don't just hand off your child to someone brand new. So you're sharing these analogies and then at the end, you wove it into how we could use it with people. A couple of recommendations. Even though the focus was on how to say it, there were opportunities for body language. I know that horse was going, on fire, and you were like, the reins. I was like, you need to be on those reins and bending backwards and showing us with your body how forceful that gypsy was bolting towards that fence. So opportunities to use that a couple of times, I'd recommend you do that. And then I would tie the lessons in. You use trust, you use communication, and they are huge topics because there's so many elements in them. Yet really what I found and learned was you weren't angry, you told us that with this horse. You still love your child or people you work with and your friends, even though they didn't turn out what you expected. You were patient, there's perseverance in raising this horse, as there are with people. There was some more simplistic pieces that weren't so complex that you could have tied those lessons in at the end. Again, a beautiful story with a meaningful message. Thank you for sharing the magnificent gypsy, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Sarah. At this time, can we please get a timer's report for our third evaluation?
Mr. General Evaluator, our magnificent evaluations went like this. Tim's was 2 minutes 38 seconds, Toni's was 3 minutes 9 seconds, and Sarah's was 3 minutes and 8 seconds. All qualified. Cast your vote for one of the three.
Please vote for Best Evaluator. At this time, I would like to call for the Functionary Report before I give my comments on the meeting in general. So I would like to call on first the grammarians, Stephen Block.
Thank you. I heard the word of the day from the following people: Jaye, Lynn, Steve, Morgan, John, and Mark. Did I miss anyone? Good. Jaye said, I became the story, I was unstoppable. Charlie, thank goodness that most of them are in California. Let's see, John, her horse told her, oh no, another one. Why would you think you're less valuable than a horse? Lynn, she galloped towards the herd of cows and they scattered like chickens. Toni, we shouldn't waste our mistakes. Tim, you have colorful characters. I just want to say you had the colorful shirt when you said that. Mark, she has more enthusiasm than a barrel of monkeys. Sarah, the snorting sound stuck with me. Thank you.
Susan Morgan, can we please get an odd-counter report?
Absolutely. Charlie, I had 2 double clutches and 1 like and or so, now or but. I put those in there because they were being prevalent around. Jonathan, you had 3 double clutches, 6 bridge words. They were mostly so, just so you're aware. Steve Block, you had 1 on 3 double clutches and a bridge word.
Sweet.
Emma, I didn't catch anything from you. I may not have been listening at the time. Or you...
I can improve that much.
Yeah, I think I may have been listening to your table topic and not listening for ahs and ums. Jaye, I had 1 R, I had 1 double clutch, 2, see there's me with with bridge words, and you had 5 tongue clicks. I put that down because I kept hearing from a couple people, so I thought I'd just let you know what I heard. And there were a couple other people. Oh, Steve Block, I did get 1 of those.
I got a tongue click.
You got a tongue click.
Not what I just did.
Lynn, you had 5 double clutches and 1 bridge word and 1 tongue click. Oh, I had you down twice, that's why, Emma.
Oh.
Emma had 5 ahs and ums and 3 bridge words. Amy, I did count yours, but I won't say them out loud. If you want to know, you can come over here.
23.
And it wasn't bad at all. Mark, you had 1 double clutch. Tim, you had 2 ahs and ums, 3 double clutches, 1 bridge word, which was C. Instead of saying like or and, you said C. So that might be something to look out for. And Sarah, I had 1 double clutch, 1 bridge word, and 1 tongue clip. And that is my report.
The good thing about the evaluations, it's not just the speakers that can learn from the evaluators. We can all listen and learn and pick up things. Now, as far as the meeting in general, we started on time. Changes to the agenda were announced at the beginning of the meeting, and you kept the meeting on track. I saw you and Toni working out hand signals to adjust the table topics as needed. Also, I would like to mention that we don't always give our functionaries the kudos they deserve. So tonight, Stephen, as timer, I have never seen such passion on the timing device as I saw this evening. Job well done. Emma, vote counter. The gracefulness at which you went around and collected the votes on the various on the various speaking, that was awesome. Susan, wherever you are, as always, elegance. She's getting more wine.
Yeah. You guys gonna hide stuff.
She's like, my job's done. I'm gonna go fill up. Elegance in the ahs. John, way to own it when you said that you had an adjustment on the table topics, that you had made a mistake. Overall, as always, I thought this was a very well done, informative, and enjoyable meeting. Everything went according to plan, and when it didn't, we made the changes as we needed to continue on. So job well done. At this time, I will turn it over.
Most improved.
Okay, go ahead and vote for most improved. While I'm doing that, Charlie will return to the lecture.
Now that we're ending our meeting, I'd like to get a little feedback from our guests tonight. Amy, could you tell us how you enjoyed the meeting, or if you did enjoy the meeting?
I really did enjoy the meeting. I found it very inspirational. I really see so much creativity and energy and enthusiasm and passion for the topic of Toastmasters and what it does. And so I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be a guest at this meeting. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Dan.
Well, that was a tough act to follow as a guest. Amy, I had fun. It was great. And I have to tell you, I'm very impressed with the lofty level of skills displayed here tonight. And I intend to come back. I will be back. Thank you.
I know. Well, here's Susan back. Let's give her a hand as she gets. We'll tell you later why you get the hand. Toni, I know you have something to say.
In addition to our functionaries not always getting the kudos they deserve, our members don't always get the kudos. Mark Lockery, winner of the Division D Humorous Speech Contest! This man won the club, the area, the division, and he will compete next month at the top level district conference in the state of Florida.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd like to point out, who's been to a conference here?
Woo!
All right, this table and this table, okay. If you haven't been to a conference, please go to a conference. On Friday night, we're going to have famous, how do we describe?
Well, theme night.
Theme night, and it's based on, tell us.
I don't remember.
I think it's
The
famous
rhythm is going to get you.
And I'll
So
tell you,
music.
if you do hear that famous character, I was for many years, will make an appearance. Elvis Thank you very much. So, and remember this, on Saturday mornings, we have classes on all kinds of things on speeches. I did one called Speak Like a Champion, and it overfills, because everybody wants to do that. And so attend these classes, go to this conference. I mean, it's $100 and some
About 130.
for dinner on Friday, lunch on Saturday, and dinner on Friday night, and the contest.
Two contests.
That's it, two
Friday night
contests.
and
Saturday night. So it's
Contest.
excellent, yeah, and then it'll be a blast.
Daytona Beach.
Daytona this time, yeah. Oh, may I announce this too? I am now officially a member of the club again. I mean, I visit so often, I think, but my schedule, I joined the last time around, and then my whole schedule changed, and I couldn't do it after 2 weeks, So I'm glad to be back, and let's get we'll build some membership and have some fun in here, and work on this air conditioning.
Wouldn't you have time to put the fans on today? Our sergeant around quit a little bit today and didn't put the fans on.
Way to blame someone else. Didn't you learn anything?
Do we have for next week?
Okay, we've got, all right, we have some meetings. This was supposed to come around, it didn't make it around. I will pass it around here in a moment again, so before you leave, mark your what you want to do. For next week, the 21st of October, we have Mark as a speaker, and we have Roy as Table Topics Master, and Toni, you're supposed to be General Evaluator. So we need 2 more speakers, 3 evaluators, and all our functionaries. So that will be.
And everyone operating.
So we
just had some hands raised.
Okay, sorry.
For an evaluator.
Okay, Jaye will be an evaluator.
I'll be an evaluator also, please.
I'll speak.
I'll be an evaluator.
I'll speak.
John and Steve and an evaluator.
And you already master?
No.
Oh, you're speaking. Steve?
Oh, wait, Stephen and who else is evaluating? Jonathan?
Jonathan, Charlie, and
Charlie, okay.
I'll be a timer, I
And
guess.
speaking.
Timer
Mark,
for Steve.
Mark, you're speaking.
Yeah.
Steve, you're speaking.
Okay. So it
We need
looks
a
like,
third speaker.
yeah, we could use a 3rd speaker.
You got me down as a speaker?
No?
Yeah,
You
well,
want
then
a
I'm the
speaker?
third speaker.
Okay, Tim is gonna be a speaker.
Overwhelmed.
All right, so we've got that meeting, we need a Toastmaster.
Oh,
That's the biggest thing.
You've done it recently.
Yeah, I did it not too long ago.
Lynn, you coming back?
I'm pretty busy at work right now. I'm not sure. I'm working on a big project.
Get it done.
Okay, well, we will work on it and come up with a Toastmaster. If not, I'll probably be a Toastmaster. If no one else volunteers, somebody has to.
Is there somebody who could be a mentor from me for a future Toastmaster day?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone you want, just let us know and.
I would be available on the weekends.
That's a good point. If you join Toastmasters, remember you can ask for somebody to mentor you. It's absolutely free. I mean, I mentor a lot of people because of the joy of seeing them get up there and speak. And when they win, it's really a dance around the room. So, ask. If you see somebody, ask them if they'll mentor you. And 9 out of 10 times they will. So don't forget that. That's there for you.
Susan, if you can't find somebody to be Toastmaster, my speech is actually only a 2 to 3 minute toast.
Oh,
I can probably do both.
all right.
And introduce
All right,
yourself.
let's,
Introduce myself.
Yes. All right, and then the next meeting on October 28th is our Halloween meeting, and we always have a ton of fun. Please dress in a costume if you can. You don't have to, but it's always much more fun if you do. Stephen is going to be our Toastmaster. Jaye will be our General Evaluator, and Gail will be an off-counter. Other than that, we need speakers, we need table topics masters.
I'll be a speaker.
Horror stories?
Okay.
I'll speak.
Got a little good horror story?
Maybe.
All right, that sounds great, everybody. Get ready for that Halloween themed meeting, especially give it some thought, and we'll have a lot of fun. Maybe we'll even bring some snacks and we'll definitely have wine. We gotta have food and wine, so.
You need me no blood?
Toni?
Well, the wine will be blood, because I always bring the red.
For our guests, mainly for Amy, Dan's been a Toastmaster before. There are a lot of educational materials. We do not leave you out in the cold. So along with the people here that can guide you through the program and tell you more about how the meeting is run and how the rules are done. There's the internet, there's Toastmasters website, we have a website, there's a website for our district, there's tons of information on how to do everything in your nominal fee to Toastmasters Internationals. I don't know if they still send the booklets, but there's manuals, there's booklets, or you can get it online and download it for free. So once you become a member, you have all sorts of resources. And in fact, you could go home tonight and Google any topic in Toastmasters, and all sorts of clubs have websites, all sorts of articles will come up. So go ahead and immerse yourself. Get started.
Toni, we have
Come
some
here.
stuff for her. to give
I
us?
gave her a guest
Oh.
pack. It's the last one, so.
It's the last one? Okay.
Help me take that stuff home and all.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any old business? Okay, time?
Wait, what about, we didn't address that we have a officer position.
Well, I want to be sure we verify that for sure, 100%.
Mark, are you 100% sure that CC's not coming back?
I never said anything about that. All I knew is she wasn't coming tonight.
She's taking a break
Oh. And how did you find that out?
from Mark.
But he didn't.
All I
he
said was
didn't
she
say
wasn't
that.
coming
This
tonight.
is orders, I'm gonna take the lead.
Okay, well, her
Look in the
membership.
mirror.
I am.
Okay, just so you know, her membership is not renewed, so that's an issue
Right.
to address.
What
We'll actually, we'll do it
She
next.
is vice president of membership, one of the key.
It's kind of ironic.
Okay, it is time for the awards. For our guests, we have what is called a Tim Chastain Award, and that is given only by the president. Tim Chastain was one of our original founders, and that is given by the president to someone, one of the Toastmasters, that went beyond the call of duty to help out, either setting up or getting the wine ready for the president.
Okay.
No, it's usually someone that goes above to help out. So tonight, our award goes to Mark Lockridge.
Oh. Yes. I'm not undocumented anymore.
You're not just a
Our Best Table Topics Award goes to Charlie Bumbleear. Thank you, thank you. For our Most Improved Award goes to Mark Lockridge.
Yes.
Trying to keep your
I'm
confidence
gonna need
up
new
there.
shoes after all this walking.
Keep your confidence level up there.
Okay.
For our Best Evaluator Award, Sarah Hunt. I think this is the 999 and well deserved. And for our Best Speaker Award, Jaye Major. Any last comments, questions, statements?
See you next week.